Welcome to Village in Motion. It is Wednesday, January 23rd, 2019, and in case you didn't know it, today is National Pie Day. So be sure when you go into one of our dining rooms today that you ask for a piece of pie just to celebrate. And this morning on Village in Motion, we welcome Public Affairs Officer from the Fairfax County Police Department, Alice Eggers. How are you this morning?
Hi, how are you? Good morning.
Good. And the weather has calmed down a little bit.
Yes, absolutely.
Which is a good thing.
Yes, absolutely. And I'll have to remember to get some pie later on.
Oh yes, that's important.
Yes,
right.
Absolutely.
So tell us what you'd like to talk about today.
So I think it's very important that as we're coming into the tax season, we all know that tax season has started. And I think it's very important that we know that this is the time that scammers are basically preying on our fears. It's very stressful to do our taxes. It's very stressful to find out, do we owe, do we not owe? And so a lot of times you'll get email messages that say, you owe the IRS an exorbitant amount of money, or you'll get a phone call saying that you owe the IRS. So understand that bottom line is the IRS sends a letter. They do not contact you by email or by phone. So it's best basically to hang up. If you would like to, basically what I tell people is same with the credit cards. If you're on the phone with somebody and you're questioning and you're not quite sure, you can say, you know what, can I take your name and your number and I will get back to you. And then you can go to the IRS website, you can contact their customer service and then say, does such and such work there? And that way you can find out for sure whether something like that happens. But to be honest, they're going to send you a letter in the mail.
Very good advice. So tax season, we're gathering together our paperwork, and it's important as we're watching our mail this time of year, lots of things come in the mail.
Yes.
To look at what we have, make sure we don't throw away the wrong pieces of paper.
Yes.
And keep the right pieces of paper.
Yes. Absolutely.
And read them carefully.
Mm-hmm.
And if someone calls or writes to us and says that we're the IRS, be very careful.
Correct. And I think it's also very important to verify. It's that old adage, trust but verify.
Yes.
So always verify the information, whether it be on your credit card statement or with the IRS. And even now, some of the scams are, someone from the sheriff's office will contact you and say that you have a warrant on file, you need to pay $10,000 so that you don't have to come to court. Again, that's one of those. I always say if you have that overwhelming reaction, that should be a red flag to you to say, you know what, I need to take a step back. Sir, ma'am, can I take your number? I'm going to call. And here in Fairfax County, you would call the circuit court or the general district court, and you can call and make verifications that way, or call the sheriff's office by looking online. So again, that trust and verify.
If something scares you,
yes,
then stop.
Yes, stop for a minute, breathe. I always say do the 4, 7, 8, breathe in for 4, hold it for 7, breathe out for 8, and then go, you know what, I'm going to verify this information. Can I take your name and number and I will contact you back.
Especially if someone calls you like that and you don't know anything about it from before. It's like, well, something doesn't sound right here.
Correct. And again, typically the red flag is that overwhelming emotions, of fear and guilt, like, oh, did I miss something? Did I really do something wrong? And now there's a warrant out on file for me. The probability is very, very low. Yes. So it's always best to verify that information.
Right. Going back to the tax one, and of course people who live here have been filing their taxes forever, but there are always new ways to try to say, well, we can help you get your tax return sooner.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's another kind of a scam.
It can be. So realize that, when someone says I can get it for you sooner, there's usually a very large fee involved with that. And that could be completely legitimate, but understand that there are people out in the public that are scamming, saying, you just, I'll do the tax information and then basically I'll give you some money now and then I will take the check, the larger check, obviously. So that can be a scam as well. There are some legitimate businesses that do it, but there's also the scammers that are much worse. But either way, you're giving up a portion of your check, which is owed to you.
Right. Your best advice is always to do your taxes the way you have always done it.
Yes.
Ask for advice from those that you know, from your family members, from an accountant that you have worked with before.
Yes, that you've established a relationship of trust.
Don't be tempted.
Correct.
If it sounds too good to be true, it probably is.
Yes.
Right. What other dangers are lurking for us out there right now? There's always something.
Oh, absolutely. And I think we were talking before about, people, when they get things in the mail, it has a lot of information in it.
Yes.
And it could be anything from, we're going to lower your credit card, interest rate, please just fill out this form and send it back to us. If you're not going to do something like that, it's best to shred all that information because you don't want someone to assume your identity.
And shredding it is more than just throwing it in the recycle bin.
Correct. And I know as I get older, my hands start to hurt because they make them super thick. But they do have shredders out there that go over your trash bin that you can flatten them out and you can basically shred it, and there you go.
Many people here have children who are saying, well, Mom, what can we buy you? Dad, what can we buy for you? Ask for a shredder. Shredders are easy to use and easy to empty, and that's the best thing you can have. And if you don't need to shred the whole document.
No.
Here in our mail areas, we have big bins that say recycle, which is fine, but that doesn't mean that you want to throw the portion in that has your name and address on it.
Correct.
That you always want to tear off and either take it home and shred it or tear it up into teeny tiny pieces, and sometimes throw those teeny tiny pieces into 2 separate bins.
Yes.
So someone can't put them back together.
Correct.
That information that's on there, someone else can use.
Yes, they can. And again, it's about protecting your identity, and realize that is the crime that we have right now. That we actually see more of the identity theft and the credit card frauds and things like that than we do with robberies. So that is kind of the new thing because it's very hard to track. Also, this time of year, you start to hear from the charities. A lot of times we'll get a lot of that. And I always tell people, pick 1 or 2 charities that you feel very passionately about, do some research on it. And then that way, if someone calls and says, we're with such association, you can say, you know what, I already donate to 2 other charities. I feel very comfortable with them. I'm not going to donate to you.
Just say no.
Yeah, and it absolves you of guilt because you already have picked charities that you've researched.
And you don't know who these people are. You don't know who these charities are.
Correct.
And that's, I had a really scary situation to me here at Greenspring one time. I was standing in line at the treasure chest and I heard a lady in front of me say, oh, we just get so many letters from these charities. And I hand these over to my husband. He takes care of sending the checks out to all of them. And I just literally at the time went, what are these people doing?
Yeah.
Because she was treating them, and evidently her husband also, as if someone asked for money, of course we were going to send it to them. And that's probably the worst thing that you can do, because once you send to one, they're going to share your name and address with others.
Yes.
Which is a very dangerous thing.
And you're the greatest generation. Your hearts are big.
Oh,
You
yes.
have huge amounts of charity. And that's a good thing. But it should be done what I call charity with boundaries.
Yes.
So charity with boundaries means that you understand that you've done your research on the particular charities that you feel passionately about. And you also know what percentage of your money actually goes to that charity.
If you have a computer, you can look online and you can just say, you put the name of the charity in, and behind it put administrative costs.
Yes.
And you can look up, and it will give you a full picture of that charity and where the money goes.
Yes.
I looked up one the other day, and I was pleasantly surprised that the money was very, very well used.
Yes.
But that's not always the case, and sometimes
Correct.
it's the ones we know the best.
Yes.
That you go, oh my God, only 15% of the money really goes to the people who we think it goes to.
Yes.
So it's important to look those up.
Absolutely. And we should be educated as consumers and people that give money. So, and it is
Yes.
very hard because a lot of times we're very busy in our lives. We have things that we want to do. But once you're writing that check or you're sending money, that is a piece of you that goes out. And I always say we should know where that goes.
Yes. And I had one that happened to me personally. I'm a quilter, and I had joined an online quilting group that allowed me to send, I paid for it, allowed me to see some videos. And this went on for 8 or 9 years, and I enjoyed this. Well, this group went defunct. And so the last time I looked them up, what I saw online was what was left of this group selling all of these email addresses and information. And when you had joined it, they'd say, well, what do you like to do for fun? And asked all this information. So someone was selling all of these thousands
Yes.
of members' addresses and information and all of this. So it's information that they gather about you that they're selling.
Yes. And
So
that's
you
very
have to be careful.
Yeah, and it's very disheartening when you make a leap of faith and you trust that you're signing up for a group and that you know they tell you we're going to keep your information private, and when they violate that, that can be very upsetting to
Right.
people. But I think the biggest thing to remember is that every time you put your information online, there's always the possibility that your information could be compromised. That's not meant to make you fearful, it's to make you more aware of how much you want to put out there.
I guess the important thing is to ask yourself why they need this information.
Yes, correct.
I don't know if this has happened to you, but it's happened to me in a store. You go into a store and you're paying for the package of paper you're buying, and they say, "What's your zip code?" Why do you need to know this? And some of them will go on, they want your address, they want your telephone number. And some of them are young kids and they don't know any more than they've been say, well, get this. So I'm really good at making up zip codes and making up telephone numbers and making up addresses, and it gets the kid through what they never need to do, but they don't have any need for this information.
Correct. And again, different people have different levels of what they want for their privacy, and that's okay.
Yes.
Everybody has different comfort levels. But again, I think it's being an educated consumer and deciding in advance how much information you want to put out there, and also realize that this time of year, we're getting a lot of the phone calls, and it's predominantly to our senior population where, we're going to be coming up on spring break soon.
Yes.
Little Danny's in a jail somewhere at spring break and you need to send money, and they usually ask for Apple gift cards or Home Depot gift cards. If someone's calling you saying you need to wire money or you need to wire gift cards or, send gift cards, those should be huge red flags for you. But again, we get emotionally involved, and sometimes
right in the moment. It's
yes,
little Danny.
Yes, it's little Danny, and a lot of times we give them the information because they'll go, "Grandma," and we're like, "Danny, are you okay?" And then they have that information, and then they use that to exploit us.
Yes.
And for me, I get it because we're emotionally involved. It's our grandchild.
Yes.
We want to protect them, and we want them to have the best. But again, it's those moments where if you're feeling those high rises of emotion, you should take the step back. Yes, breathe and go, you know what? I understand that you're in jail right now, in theory, right? I need your information. I need who I need to talk to. I need the phone numbers. And then you basically can contact Danny's parents, your children, and say, where is he? Things like that. Again, that's being that educated consumer before you start doing something like that.
Right. I have one other one to alert folks to, and this is one that our producer here in our TV station received. This says, this call is from, it was a telephone call, this call and a message also. This call is from the Department of Social Security Administration. The reason you have received this phone call from our department is to inform you that we just suspend, very poor English, your Social Security number because we found some suspicious activity. So if you want to know about this case, just press 1, thank you. So the real flag there is the very poor English used. And she said that she has gotten this many times with a different phone number every time attached to it. So one flag there is very poor English. Another flag is that if this is an email message, look and see what the email address is. Obviously, it's many times it's a lot of garbage. But this would be a scary one. My Social Security number has been suspended.
Yes, and again, that's that high emotion, that initial reaction. Again, that's your red flag that something's not right.
Right.
And again, we call this phishing. It used to be phishing through emails. Now it's phishing via voicemail or leaving a message, or they're just randomly calling numbers.
So they're hoping somebody will be able to send them some money in some form.
Absolutely.
Obviously, she didn't call them and find out what the rest of it was.
Absolutely. And again, that's part of that whole thing. And if it wasn't productive, they wouldn't do it.
They wouldn't do it.
So we have to be aware as consumers that there are people that go out there and they do this type of thing.
Now, again, here in Fairfax County, if I have a problem, if I want to talk to someone in the police department about it, who do I call?
Okay, so if you're making a report, let's say you fell victim to something like this, there is no shame in that. We're all vulnerable in some way,
Sure.
shape, or form, where we didn't think things through, and that's okay. But you should make a report. So you can call the 691-2131 number.
703
691-2131.
Okay.
So you can call that and they can dispatch an officer to your location to make a report for you. There's also online reporting for financial crimes, so
Okay.
that is online. Some people don't feel comfortable with that. They would like to see an officer, and that's okay too as well. Obviously, if it's an emergency, it's 911.
Sure.
But again, for that standard report, like I might have been scammed, or you're like, no, I have been scammed, you have the two versions of it, which is the 691-2131, where you talk to an officer directly, or you can make a report online.
Okay. Thank you for the good reminders as we move into
Absolutely.
tax season here, and reminding us to be careful about our identity. And we'll look forward to seeing you next time.
Awesome. I look forward to it.
Okay, thanks for joining us today.